Hi everyone, welcome back to another exciting knife review. Today we're going to talk about the Spyderco mule knife and its accessories. Like all my other videos, I'll put all this information into the description section of this video, or otherwise you can freeze the video to see it. We'll jump into the review right now. So for today's review, we're reviewing the CTS-B70P and the RWL34 mule knives, and the Boltaron sheath and the G10 handles issued by Spyderco. Overall, both knives were made in very high quality standard, made in the Spyderco Taiwan factory. Spyderco makes them in different steels every year. So they have made 26 different iterations of such mule knives. So you can choose whatever steel you like as long as the stock is still available. The blade shape is a pretty typical Spyderco leaf shape with a full flat grind and also a very big belly. It's very easy to slice things and also easy to sharpen it on a flat whetstone. So the B70P, that's push cutting, no problem at all. The Taiwanese made Spydercos seem to have very fine edge comparing with the US made Spydercos, which often have like a coarse edge. Both cut very well. Anyways, I'm just making it clear that there's weight reduction on the knife due to a lot of holes drilled on the handle. There are definitely a couple of options here you can choose as a lanyard hole. It fits in your hand very nicely, even without the handle scales. The finger guard and the thumb ramp provides very good control during use. Of course, it is a full tang construction. The steel tang actually protrudes from the handle, so you can use it as an impact tool. The sheath is so hard to push in, so it definitely can hold the knife in together without much issue. The sheath obviously provides multiple carry options, lashing hole, or if you want to mount the G-clip in either direction, vertical, horizontal, without a problem, left and right. And there is a drainage hole on the sheath as well. There's no need to adjust the grip if you want to pull the knife out because your hand is already in position like this. The sheath is very compact, of course. It's very small and short. That you can probably use this whole knife as a boot knife because it's a small package and both knife and the sheath. This sheath is made of a material called Boltaron. I had a brief look at the internet and it says Boltaron is a high impact resistant, high weather resistant and fire resistant material. So I'm not sure how that compares with Kydex, but that sounds to me is a pretty nice material to make a sheath out of. It's a fixed blade knife, but it has a relatively thin, very thin stock. It's 3 millimeters thick. That actually compares with a lot of folding knives we have on Spyderco catalog. It's a very thin blade. We're talking about thinner than a lot of folding knives as well. And the handle is not very big for anyone with very big hands because I have sort of a medium to small sized hand. This knife just fits me okay. I've got one extra finger sized spare room here. That's all there is. So if you're a very big guy, this knife may be a little bit small for you. There's no jimping on the knife once forever, which is somewhat very contradicting to Spyderco's normal behavior. And I would prefer if the thumb ramp was ever so slightly bigger as well. For such a nicely made hand knife with all these holes on it, amazing and very surprising thing is that there's no lanyard hole for any of the holes existing on the handle, so that's really weird. I previously just had a lot of trouble putting the knife into the sheath because it just, when it gets to here, it seems to for some reason go very hard to push it in. I don't know why it just gets really hard to push in when it gets to here. That's quite a downside to me because it's just weird. Once I look into the knife, it just somehow feels that for some reason the knife blade is cutting into the sheath. As you see, every time I do so, there's a lot of plastic came out. It's like the blade is cutting into the sheath for some reason. My theory is that they may have made the sheath based on 1 or 2 models of the mule team release, and they ever since then have changed ever so slightly the dimension or the design of the mule blades. So perhaps it doesn't fit all of the mule team knives very nicely. This plastic kind of worries me because I don't really like the knife being dulled by the sheath. We just want to demonstrate it's not dulled, the knife. It feels like it may be okay. Positive things about the knife, based on my speculation, the handle scales are made to be ever slightly smaller than the blade. In my opinion, that provides a somewhat attraction in terms of rotation. So if you are cutting something with the knife, having a little bit of edge here, it prevents your hand from rotating very much, especially if, say, you are sweaty. Negative things based on my speculation includes the handles without any handle scales are kind of very slippery, really. You don't really have any jimping or anything going on, and the curves here are not super big. So if you bought this knife and you don't want to have any kind of handle, I think it's not a superb idea, because if you use the knife in such a manner, it just doesn't really have a whole lot of grippy texture to grip on. The flat side of this handle scales are actually not smooth. It's actually got a G10 texture, just like what you get from your paramilitary tools. So if you start using the knife, the dirt or fluid could get into between the handle scales and the blade, and it could get trapped inside because of the texture. So here's a close-up of the G10 handles. You can see the inside is actually got texture on it. One major problem I have with this handle design is that they're held together by these cap screws and the pillars. The cap screw has a diameter maybe 1.5 millimeters bigger than the diameter of the pillars. That means there's not a whole lot of material that prevents the pillars from falling out of the handles. So the really downside about this sheath is it's just so damn tight. Every time I try to push the knife in, it just feels like it's going to scratch the very fine edge. And I've already demonstrated that each time I pull the knife out, you can see bits of plastic comes out with the blade as well. So that's a very bad sign. In conclusion, I think Spyderco had a really good idea to sell these knives in different steels. It's relatively cheaper and also satisfy our needs to use different types of steels. I just hope they had designed the sheaths and handles better, like I previously pointed out. In terms of fit and finish, I think the Taiwanese-made Spyderco knives definitely are very high quality. They have very good satin finish and come with very sharp edge. The edge is sharper and finer than the USA-made knives that I have from Spyderco. I would not say that they are better in quality than the USA-made knives, but I would say that they paid particular attention to the finish and as well as the edge sharpness. I wish they rounded the corners of the handle a little bit better, because it's a little bit sharp. It would not cut you, but it's just slightly uncomfortable. I've had a US-made mule knife in the CTS-XHP, which was in stone wash finish. It did not actually have the sharp angles like this one. So, I mean, in terms of fit and finish, I would give it to the US factory, even though they're using stone wash finish, and that particular knife I got was a discounted model for being blemished. It had a couple of spots that was not very, perhaps visually pleasing, but I would prefer a knife without sharp corners. So thanks very much for watching. I hope you give me a thumb up or subscribe or watch some of my other review videos. I will see you next time.